talking about fixing things or not fixing things, where are you guys on Anthony Joshua's decision, seemingly, if it is indeed his decision alone to make, that he's not going to be Daniel Dubois' next opponent?
I think it's a great decision from Team Joshua. Knowing AJ, I'd have thought in the hours afterwards, all he wanted to do was get back in the ring with Daniel Dubois and try and get the revenge. However, I'm happy that obviously Freddie Cunningham, the team, and Eddie, they've talked and they've worked out. And there's a slight injury, I think, as well, that he doesn't go back in with Dubois next time. I think that's right. I think he should sit out and just wait and see what happens with Usyk and Fury. And if Fury loses, they make Fury AJ next, and you forget Dubois for now. That's my take on it.
Tunde.
Well, regardless of what happens, I was never happy with the fight in the first place, just because of the stages of their careers. And I guess that the apple was the IBF belt for AJ.
Yeah.
Did you think Dubois would win beforehand?
Absolutely. And everyone who was listening to The Fight Is Right on a Sunday knew for weeks. Everyone, you know, my friend, co-host, brother Spencer Fury was saying that, you know, AJ's ordained, and I was like, well, Daniel could be ordained as well. And I've known Daniel from a kid. I used to train Daniel, and he's always getting better, and he's still young. And I think people forget how young he is still at this age. And so for what AJ had been through, his career, what he's achieved, there was really nothing, there was no incentive there. So the fact that...
We wanted to become a 3-time...
So what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that, Tunde? I mean, ultimately, we had this big, long journey of the year where he fought Jermaine Franklin, he fought Robert Helenius, he fought Otto Wallin, he fought Ngannou, and did boxing a great service by dealing with Ngannou, because I think Fury made it a little bit, a bit of a ridicule opportunity for boxing, with the MMA guys coming in and making boxers look, so-called elite boxers look not elite.
Not elite.
But were you in the camp that Anthony Joshua now had gotten back to where he may have been at some point in his career and was ready to go? Because it doesn't sound like you were.
When are you ready to go?
Well, ready to win a world title, ready to go into a fight. Because ultimately, he talked constantly about wanting to be a 3-time heavyweight champion of the world. Somewhere along the line, he's going to have to fight a live one. Yes. I didn't think Jermaine Franklin, Robert Helenius, and Otto Wallin were as live as having to fight for a world title belt, obviously. Well, so the first one he's gone in against in a live one was Daniel Dubois, and he's gotten knocked out. Were you on that? Where were you as far as Anthony Joshua?
The fight I wanted, and many people wanted to see, was Tyson Fury. And I think even now, Tyson Fury will be the fight for AJ.
Because of the styles, or just because of the size of the fight? Just because of the styles, and it's a fight that... It's a huge fight. Again, it's a Conor Ben Eubank situation. And I feel like, you know, I was even saying on our show, Tyson should pull a sickie against Usyk, and let's just make the fight. AJ against Tyson Fury.
We're looking forward to Usyk Fury. I think it's going to be a great fight. That's December 21st. AJ sits it out and waits. I think what I didn't like post the Joshua defeat was that everybody was talking about AJ. What happens to him? Does he retire? What went wrong, etc.
Not about Daniel's
What about Daniel Dubois, who has done incredibly well to pick himself up, firstly with Joe Joyce, then in the Usyk situation, which was a difficult one to come to terms with. He goes out, he does really well against Baby Miller. And then he takes Hrgovic, fantastic, and he comes in and he everything about him from the first moment you saw him at Wembley, walking out to the opening jab, the feet. He was ruthless, and he was absolutely superb. And I think he's 27 years old. I think this is a guy that the country can get behind, right? We've had AJ and Fury, and Daniel's quieter. He's a different character, but he's a lovely guy.
Getting more confident, isn't he?
He is getting more confident. He's starting to feel himself. He's a funny bloke. And you know what? He went away to Brazil, Simon, for a few weeks with his family to relax. I saw him in the gym last week. He's just back in the gym. Most fighters who come off a holiday take some time to get back.
Straight back
in. He looked so sharp. He's got a wonderful jab. He's got a great right hand. He fights with both hands. He's got a good uppercut. He moves well for a heavyweight. I tell you what, you did a good job with him.
Yeah, can I just say, this is the reason why I said it was always a dangerous fight for Daniel. I've known Stan and the family from the day they was bringing Caroline, Daniel into the Lim. Solomon Solomon wasn't born then, I don't think, into the Lim Boxing Club. And the reason why he looked like that when you saw him the other day is because there's no days off.
No.
You know, Daniel's someone who's, and I wouldn't be surprised if after the Usyk defeat, his dad was making him train the day after, because he's a born fighter. And this is what I was saying when we're talking about the AJ situation and Daniel's situation. AJ found boxing. Daniel was born into boxing.
I agree with that, but I do think Joshua has trained ever so hard. He loves the training side
But this is what I'm saying. So Daniel, so again, we're talking about two athletes here.
Yep.
We're talking about one that found boxing and trains hard.
Yes.
We're talking about another individual who had no choice.
Yes.
I was there the days in Greenwich Park when Daniel's dad had Caroline and Daniel sprinting. We're talking about from birth, up until the present day. And this is why he's going to get better. This is why he continues to get better. And this is why the fight that was really supposed to happen was they thought Hrgovic was going to beat Daniel.
They did.
And that would have made way for the
what happened
AJ
in
fight.
sparring all those years ago. And he took his lumps and bumps in the first couple of rounds. He really did. But the way he came through it, and you talk about how he's getting more confident, he spoke after that the best I've ever heard him. He was free.
But I also saw him speaking the other day to Jim White and the manner in which he articulates himself now. His father is a very influential figure in his life. And I remember reading, and I've said this before, Jeff Powell wrote an article about 4 years ago, just before the fight with Joe Joyce, which I went to. And I thought Daniel wasn't mentally prepared, whether the environment, because it was empty during COVID, and you could hear a pin drop because there was nobody there. I watched him in a ring walk and he looked ill at ease with the environment. And the fight was a more difficult fight than he anticipated. And once he realised that he couldn't knock Joe Joyce out, the game changed. And obviously he had that injury and a lot of people made a lot of noise and made accusations.
Joseph Parker or Joe Joyce?
Joe Joyce.
Yes.
Yeah. During COVID, yeah.
Well, yes.
Yeah. And so he's now developed into the fighter that people like Jeff Powell were talking about, which was forget about Fury, forget about Joshua.
Yes.
This kid's the future.
Yes.
This is the guy that's going to be dominating heavyweight boxing. Anyway, listen, Frank Warren joined me last week on another show talking about Daniel Dubois and his next opponent. Let's see what Frank had to say.
It's very, very, very doubtful. And, that he'll fight. There'll be the rematch. I don't think that's happened. And we're working on other opponents at the moment. I literally got off the phone about half hour ago to his father and to his trainer, Don Charles. And we're looking at a couple of options.
Joe Parker, Frank? Joe Parker, Frank?
He's one of the fighters that are on the list.
Good fight there. It's a good fight there.
It's a very good fight. I haven't got all the fights with that. When's Daniel Dubois not been in a good fight? Every fight he has.
Agreed. But it's a good fight. Ultimately, if we can't get the AJ situation, which a lot of people want to see for obvious reasons, if you're going to then put someone else in, I think Joseph Parker has earned the right to be in there, isn't he?
He has, and as well as other guys have. It's been a very, very lively scene, this heavyweight scene, this last 12 months. There's no doubt about that.
And Frank, while we have you on this lively lunchtime, what next for Fabio Wardley?
He will fight next year. We're looking at some fights and opponents for him. He'll fight somebody who's ranked in the top 10, and he'll be looking for a big, big fight, which we're going to do for him at his hometown football club, Ipswich, in the summer.
So I helped Frank out with a nice, easy fight matchmaking for
That's
Daniel.
great, wasn't it?
What do you think of it? If that fight does get made, what do you think of that fight, Parker-Dubois?
I love the Joe Parker fight. I think he deserves it. Everything you said there was right. He's earned his stripes. He's actually been out the ring a little bit too long. I thought he was going to be more used by Turki Al-Sheikh in the whole sort of heavyweight pot. But he's put on a bit of weight. He's bulked up a bit, Joe, because he wants a little bit more power. He wants to fight Dubois. He's been calling him out. And again, I think the Dubois camp want that fight. So it's up to the money guys to make it, and let's see it. I think it's a perfect defence for Daniel Dubois in February. It's the fight we want to see, isn't it?
Yes and no. I mean, it's a hard fight for his first defence. I mean, give him a break. Is that
what Frank was between the lines? Were you reading there that Frank was looking at
maybe, and
slightly easier?
Whether it's reading between the lines or not, I think Daniel isn't.
Would you rather have him, Martin Piccoli?
No. That's even worse. But I'm saying, listen, if you're saying Joseph Parker, then why not Joe Joyce? Joe Joyce beat Joseph Parker. That's a good fight. Yeah, for Daniel, it's a homecoming fight.
Okay, the homecoming fight I get, right?
Yes.
He's had the difficult fight with Joshua, and it doesn't really matter. There's not the pressure. He's still just 27.
It's a rematch. It's a rematch. It can sell. It's redemption. It's an opportunity for Daniel to right the wrong.
It's fine.
It was in COVID. You don't want to be... You tell me, probably in the history of the heavyweight division, where you've had a major fight and then you've gone back into another fight. You've got to give these fighters time to hold the belt, relish the belt,
but you've got
make
to say
the defense.
It's a good fight.
It is absolutely it's a good fight. AJ versus Deontay Wilder's a good fight. There are many good fights in the heavyweight division. I just feel that Daniel, after being thrown in deep twice, fights where he wasn't supposed to win. He wasn't supposed to win the Miller fight. He wasn't supposed to win the Hrgovic fight. And he came through. And then he definitely, absolutely wasn't supposed to win AJ fight.
So if it's not Joyce, who could it be? I know Derek still wants to fight. I mean, we don't want that,
Derek ain't fighting, Daniel. I don't like that fight at all. Well, there's many fights. I mean, you can put him in with FI Jagba. That's a fight for Daniel. A very good fight for Daniel. You know, even the fighter that Martin McCauley just beat, Jaron Anderson.
Yeah.
I said these are good fights. I mean, Daniel really has the world at his feet at present, and I just feel that Joseph Parker is a little tough for his first defence. I mean, give him a chance.
I think that in order to seal the deal with the public about what Daniel Dubois is going to become, which is a force within boxing, I think he has to take meaningful fights. And we talk about, did it happen before? Yeah, we saw Tyson go, and I know it's for 36 years ago or 38 years ago, but he went from one fight to the next, to the next, to the next. And ultimately, if we're re-establishing a credibility in boxing, and Turki Al-Sheikh is doing some of that, you take the live ones, don't you? I do also understand the argument that he's earned the right to maybe have Nick Ball got an easier fight after having two very big battles.
And that's the sort of thing Frank does. He's a brilliant, probably the best matchmaker in boxing, and has been for years. So he probably will be thinking a little bit more like Tunde here.
I just like Joe Parker. I think he's earned the right.
It is a brilliant fight. It is a brilliant fight, and one that Daniel, can, I don't like to use the word, but lose and still come back because he is so young. But let's do it the old way. Let's get rid of the old guards. Let's get rid of a Dylan White. Sorry, Dylan. I don't want Dylan after me, but let's fight Dylan White. Let's fight Joe Joyce. Let's let those guys finish on a high in their careers, the one that's in the twilights of their careers. And then, Daniel's only 27 years old. There's plenty of time to make these big fights.
I totally get what Tunde's saying, and in many ways I agree with it from a matching promoter's point of view, but from a public fan base point of view, and with Turki, what he's doing, a Parker fight works for me.
Can I just say one last thing? In this country, who would the fans mostly want to see? Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker, or Daniel Dubois versus Dylan White, or Daniel Dubois versus Joe Joyce? The people don't really. The boxing fans know Joe Joyce. They know. But I'm talking about the wider public. Dylan White can make that sell. Everyone knows
White,
that.
yes.
Dylan White sold out Wembley with Tyson Fury.
Definitely, Dylan White could be. Yeah.
I think Dylan would be incredibly commercially lucky to get that opportunity. But I take your point. Frank was also mentioning the idea that Fabio Wardley is a stadium fight, or could have a stadium fight. Who do you think? I mean, there was some mutterings and splutterings about Fabio going in with Daniel Dubois, which I thought was ridiculous for Fabio.
No,
I know he's inside the top 10 and brilliant for him. But where do you see? I suggested for Fabio someone like Jared Anderson, who McCauley just beaten, because
or Joe Joyce. I mean, I think Fabio Wardley is a fantastic story. Absolutely brilliant. You know, the lack of experience, the white collar fighter coming good, and look where he is. And he went to Frank, and he's stopped Fraser Clark. He's in a great position. Don't rush him.
Yeah.
Just take your time a little bit.
And I think Fabio thinks that himself as well.
Yeah, give him two or three good fights around the sort of top 20 heavyweight division, and let's sort of ease him in. We don't need to rush him and spoil what's a great story. I'd love to see him fight in Ipswich. He's so popular around those parts. He speaks really well. Yeah, he's a fantastic ambassador for the sport. Yeah. He's a great tale. Let's not mess it up.
I was just about to say Dylan White, but then I just realised that Dylan's his manager, so...
That's going to be a difficult one, isn't it?
It's going to be a difficult one.
You're trying to get Dylan fights.
And I'll be after my 10% when I make them as well, when they make them. But, Fabio is someone he's got to be admired.
Indeed.
And we need to look at individuals like this, show you that you can come from nothing.
Absolutely right.
And be something. Yeah. Beating an Olympian, stopping an Olympian, the way he did in Saudi. And I just feel there are many fights. The thing about the heavyweight division, you got the top, let's say 1 to 5, and then really...
It's a great deal after that.
Yeah, there's a great deal of fighters that are in the pot. So Fabio, Yeah, I think Jared Aronson would be a good fight for Fabio.
Yeah.
Definitely. Or even the fighter that AJ boxed on his return.
What, Jermaine Franklin?
Jermaine Franklin,
Yeah.
because he's on a winning run again. So again, it's someone that and Fabio actually fought on that bill, because I remember I was there that night when he fought an American. So I think that's a good fight.
And Franco matched them well, and it's been like Johnny Fisher, right? Let's enjoy the stories. They're different ones.
Absolutely.